was a 2011 player named Chris Lighton. Old players recognized this name instantly because of what happened to him. His story serves as a cautionary tale to all new players, so if you are new to 2b2t, you should pay close attention to this one. Chris Lighton was your quintessential 2b2t player. He was toxic, enjoyed griefing, and was all around obnoxious. He would constantly spam the following phrase in chat: Chris Lighton is the king of 2b2t. And that last part, I'm sure you can fill in the blanks. But he spammed this phrase non-stop. And back in 2011, the /ignore feature did not exist yet, so players were forced to read these messages day in and day out. Just to get him to shut up, the player base at the time humored him and told him, "Yes, Chris, you are the king of 2b2t." And of course, it went to his head. He became one of the biggest griefers of 2011. He griefed spawn bases and took spawn killing so seriously that it was borderline obsessive. Some say that the 2b2t tradition of killing new players started with Chris. Back in 2011, instead of having a random spawn location within a certain radius of 00, everybody would spawn in the exact same spot. Chris was notorious for pouring lava over the entire area, burning new players alive instantly. Players that originally made fun of Chris for trying to be the king actually began to respect his dedication to making life on 2b2t miserable for new players. When he wasn't busy killing these new players, Chris actually did work on some projects. He was one of the first people to dig out tunnels near the nether ceiling. He actually helped dig out the early parts of what is now the infamous X Highway to the world border. Chris was the most notorious player of 2011, and he had achieved fame and notoriety on the server. He had obtained all the attention that he desired. But all of this attention came at a cost. Some players had grown so sick of Chris that they wanted to make him leave the server forever. After doing some basic research, the players discovered something shocking: the true identity of 2b2t's self-proclaimed king. It turns out that Chris Lighton was not just a Minecraft username. Chris Lighton was his actual name. Chris had doxed himself by using his real name as his Minecraft name, and the toxic player base of 2b2t took advantage. He was harassed to the point of quitting the server. This event would unfortunately set precedents for many more incidents like this to happen over the years, and is part of what gave 2b2t the reputation of being the world's worst Minecraft server. Chris had come to 2b2t begging for attention, and unfortunately for him, he got it tenfold. Chris's story is a cautionary tale for new players about why it's important to keep your personal details to a minimum when dealing with 2b2t. After Chris left the server for good, there would be many copycats throughout the years that would try and copy Chris's style and persona, even going as far as using his exact same messages in chat. But it wasn't until a few years later, until the next contender for king came along. Someone who I would argue came closest to being an actual king of 2b2t. Pyrobyte, the most legendary 2b2t player of all time. Regarded by most old players as the true king of 2b2t. How did he get this reputation? Well, similar to Chris, originally, Pyrobyte was seen as an obnoxious player, but unlike Chris, Pyro was an actual computer hacker. He was able to make his own hack client and exploit the server in ways that had not been done before. In 2013, using a backdoor, Pyrobyte together with iTristan teleported to the world border, becoming the first players on 2B2T to see it with their own eyes. Pyro was also one of the creators of 2B2T's super weapons, the 32K items. Much like his predecessor, Chris, Pyro himself enjoyed griefing the spawn region and started the trend of naming withers after himself. He would name all of them. Pyrobyte is the king of 2B2T. He spawned them all over. I personally can remember New Year's Eve of 2014 going into 2015. I was on 2B2T that evening before heading out for festivities, and while I was playing, I was greeted with this sound. Pyrobyte spawned about 50 withers in the span of about a minute, all of them named after himself. Pyrobyte was also known to mess around on the Nether roof before the plugin existed that kicked players off of it. Being a member of Valkyria, he established good relationships with the player base at the time. He would be a part of many bases in his time, but his leadership abilities truly began to shine when he was selected as one of the leaders of Asgard 2, the largest group base on 2B2T in 2015. Since the majority of the active player base lived at this base and saw Pyro as a true leader, most took Pyro's claim of being king as fact. He was a powerful player with backdoor access, but never used the access maliciously. Of course, like any ruler in real-life history, he was not perfect. While posting screenshots in a group Skype chat, Pyrobyte accidentally leaked the coordinates of Asgard 2. Pyro knew that his favorable reputation would suffer if the truth got out. Nobody could know that Asgard 2 was his fault, so he decided to hide the truth. His accidental leak was so well hidden that even I didn't know about it until years later. In fact, me finding out this revelation is part of what made me want to make this video in the first place, now that we finally know the truth behind Asgard 2. But telling us all that a coordinate leak had happened and that griefers were on their way, Pyro knew that if he could channel the base's energy and anger at something, it would make it easier for people to move on from Asgard 2. All of this would culminate into the creation of the third incursion at spawn. Since Pyro felt bad about causing Asgard 2 to fall, he wanted to give the base members a memory that they would never forget. So using his powerful repertoire of items, he utilized infinite blocks to help build one of the most famous structures in 2B's history, Wrath Outpost. Pyro proved his leadership abilities by turning what could be seen as a tragedy into one of the most positive experiences players had on the server. I still look back fondly at those times. In early 2016, Pyro quietly left 2B2T for good. In the community, there's this running joke that you can quit the server at any time, but you can never leave. Pyro is the exception to this rule. He deleted his GitHub and most traces of himself on the internet. He left the world of 2B2T behind, forever, and very few have heard from him since. The only active player on 2B2T that still has ties to Pyrobyte refuses to give up any details about him, and I can't say I blame him. Pyrobyte is the closest 2B2T has ever had to an actual king. He had immense power on the server, yet showed restraint in using it. He had the respect of the majority of the 2B2T player base, with most actually referring to him as king. If you want my opinion, I'd tell you that yes, he was the king of 2B2T. While there have been countless copycats of both Chris and Pyro over the years, none of the players could back up their claims of being the king. Now, with the player base being so large and divided on a multitude of issues, having the community agree on someone being king is borderline impossible. The era of kings on 2B2T is long gone. But it makes for an interesting memory. and a very interesting story. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to subscribe and like the video. Also, make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. And you can follow me on Twitch to catch my weekly live streams every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But that's it for today's 2B2T video, everyone. I hope you learned a little something. And for you new players out there, I hope you learned a valuable lesson about what happens if you try to get too famous on 2B2T. So, take it easy, everyone. Stay alive out there, Fit Fam, and we'll see you next time.
We've all played or at least heard of Minecraft. It's one of the most popular games of all time and has sold over 200 million copies. But even such a well-known franchise has its secrets. There are layers of the iceberg that most of us will never see. Today, I want to take all of my viewers on a journey down below. I'm going to address the elephant in the room. This video was inspired by the Super Mario 64 iceberg video by Mishkaz. However, he has stated that he doesn't have any interest in doing the Minecraft iceberg, so I decided that I might as well do it. Thanks so much for the concept, and I love your channel. I am going to use one of his ideas, which is the health meter. For every theory I talk about, this health bar shows my confidence in its accuracy. 1 heart means that the theory is clearly proven false, and it gets more and more likely as we go up, until we reach 10 hearts, where the theory is definitely true. One more thing. I'm not entirely sure where this iceberg originated from, but I've included a few references at the end of the video. I didn't make it, I'm just explaining it. With that out of the way, let's dive under the waves and see how deep the Minecraft iceberg goes. Steve posting done by Mojang. Steve posting was a meme that originated on 4chan in 2018, which had an uncomfortably realistic render of Steve, Minecraft's main character. A user on the V board created a post trying to convince others that Steve should be included in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. From there, people posted various spin-offs. The theory is that some of this Steve posting was straight from Mojang themselves, maybe to legitimately push for Steve in Smash, or maybe just for some obscure viral marketing. Regardless, I can't actually find any information that leads me to believe that this is true. However, given the anonymous nature of 4chan, it's certainly not impossible. The Farlands. The Farlands is a terrain generation glitch that existed originally in older versions of Minecraft. If a player went far enough from the spawn point, the world generation would become crazy with choppy columns and bizarre structures. There were several different variations that it could generate depending on the location. In the Java edition, it was removed with version 1.8 in 2011. However, a similar effect remains in Bedrock edition, although the exact look and feel of these Farlands is different than Java. The Farlands hold an important place in Minecraft folklore, and rightfully so. The overworld generation is supposed to look similar to real life. Well, supposed to. So finding a place where all the rules were broken that generated naturally was clearly a cause for discussion. It sparks the imagination to know that the Farlands are always somewhere out there, if only you're willing to walk for long enough. Herobrine and Notch's brother. Ah, Herobrine. If you're a player like me who's been playing Minecraft for a long time, the name itself should bring you back to an era when zombies dropped feathers and hunger didn't exist. It was a simpler time. And yet, with a game so pure as Minecraft, myself and countless other players were haunted by a single image of a ghostly Steve with dead white eyes. An accompanying text posted on 4chan tells the story of someone who created a new world and would occasionally catch glimpses of the figure in the fog. Confused, he went to the Minecraft forums, only to have his posts deleted. He received a message from a non-existent user called Herobrine with only the word stop. The player was able to connect with some others who had seen Herobrine, and one of them revealed that it was supposedly the brother of Notch, the game's developer. The player emailed Notch asking if he had a brother. His response? I did, but he is no longer with us. I could make an entire video on Herobrine and his place in Minecraft history, but others have done this better than I ever could. For now, I'll stick to the facts. First of all, Herobrine was never coded into any version of Minecraft. Data miners have not been able to find anything that matches the story's behaviors and textures. Notch denies Herobrine, stating that there's no such thing as Herobrine and that Notch himself doesn't have any dead brothers. Still, there are quote-unquote canonical references to Herobrine in Minecraft. Almost every changelog from a major version includes the note, removed Herobrine. To me, this is just a running joke between the developers and the community, but who knows? Minceraft. Minceraft is a funny little Easter egg included in the Java edition of Minecraft. Every time the game starts, there's a 1 in 10,000 chance that the title screen says Minceraft instead of Minecraft. It's so subtle, but it's definitely there if you look. Makes me wonder how many times I've had Minceraft and never noticed. Building past 255. In Minecraft, every block has an XYZ coordinate location. X and Z are virtually limitless, but the vertical y-axis is restricted between 0 and 255. Although players can fly outside of these bounds, no blocks can be placed past 255. In my research, I was unable to find any way to increase this limit without the use of mods. I'm not sure if this entry is implying that it's possible or just stating that there's a vertical limit. Regardless, the lack of examples speaks for itself on this one. Entity 303. This is another creepypasta about a disgruntled ex-Mojang employee that hacked into players' games and was going to destroy Minecraft. Strictly speaking, this one's not impossible, but I think the story takes advantage of people who don't really know what hacking is and are easily scared by computer jargon. Additionally, 303 was supposedly going to ruin Minecraft by the end of 2014 or 2015. Yet, here we are, discussing a game that remains wildly popular. I think of Entity 303 as a bargain bin Herobrine. It's a similar type of idea, but without the intrigue and novelty that made Herobrine so fascinating. Red Dragon. The Red Dragon was a mob that Notch planned to add to Minecraft. It was intended to live in the overworld in order to balance out the Ender Dragon. However, since Notch left Mojang, the mob has yet to appear in vanilla versions. In 2013, the developer Dinnerbone said that it was never promised. We have no plans of adding a Red Dragon at this time. A few months later, he said that Red Dragons would be added one day, but not right now though. That was over 6 years ago, so it seems to me that Red Dragons are relegated to the list of scrapped features. The Nether Reactor. When Minecraft Pocket Edition came out, there was no way to access the Nether. As a result, the developers added the Nether Core block. When blocks were placed in an appropriate configuration, the Nether Core could be activated, generating a structure of netherrack called the Nether Spire. Then it would spew out items such as glowstone, quartz, and melon seeds, as well as spawning pigmen. It was an interesting solution to the technical limitations of the mobile platform, but to me, it's not much more than an oddity in the history of Minecraft. Creepers based on a real plant. Creepers have been described by the developers as crunchy, like dry leaves. I think this entry is referring to the possibility that creepers were based on a real-world plant. No, not these creepers, but rather a type of moss called sphagnum, or peat moss. In order to spread its spores, it releases them in an explosion that propels them up in the air. There's a game theory video that goes into detail about this, but the gist is that creepers are doing the same thing as the moss. When they explode, their spores get attached to a host, which can then carry them far distances. My personal opinion is that this theory is just a theory. A game theory! Sorry. The evidence for this to be true is pretty limited, and it doesn't seem likely that Notch would have put so much thought into a mob that was supposedly created by flipping the height and length of a pig. More on that later. Still, it's certainly possible, and some would even say plausible, that this is true. The Aether is in the base game. The Aether is a mod from the alpha days of Minecraft, which added a fantastical sky dimension with new mobs, items, and dungeons. The Aether mod was incredibly popular and introduced a lot of people to modded Minecraft, myself included. However, it was never built into the base game. I think this misconception comes from the fact that at one point a different sky dimension was planned, and it actually saw limited implementation in beta releases. However, it was ultimately scrapped. One could argue that the end is the true realization of the Aether or sky dimension. I think that's possible, but it's stylistically so different that I'm not sure it was intended to replace the sky dimension. Rather, it's a different dimension with some similarities. Minecraft includes several music discs for the player to find, which can be enjoyed using a jukebox. Most of these are just electronic songs by the game's composer C418, and they have titles like Cat or Blocks. However, one of these discs is different. It's jagged and broken and is known simply as 11. Let's cozy up by the fireside and take a listen. This disc was deeply unsettling to myself and many other players when we first heard it, especially compared to the bright and upbeat tunes from the other discs. Some people say that this is an Enderman attack, but that's unlikely to be true since the audio existed in the game files at least 8 months before Endermen were added. To understand what's happening, we need to go deeper. At the conclusion of the disc, some strange otherworldly sounds occur. We can analyze the audio file using a spectrogram. At the very end, we can just barely make out several numbers. 12 is equal to C in hexadecimal, so it spells out C418, the game's composer. It's a neat little Easter egg. However, if we scroll back a few seconds, an image of a creeper appears. Is this another Easter egg, or is it implying something else? A Reddit user named DirtPiper has come up with an idea that explains what's happening pretty well. He uses audio from another disc called 13, which has mostly ambient noises. At 1:30, the sound cuts off for 11 seconds. DirtPiper suggests that this is where disc 11 should be played. Combining discs 11 and 13 creates a story about a character in a cave who flees from a creeper and barely survives. You can read the details on his post, which I'll link in the description. The two discs line up in such a convenient way that it's hard for me to see this as dumb coincidence. But disc 11 is another one of those rabbit holes that has a lot going on, and no theory is bulletproof. It's a fitting end to the top tier of the iceberg. RubyDung was a game created by Notch before he started working on Minecraft. We know that it's a top-down isometric building game, but there are only a few screenshots in existence. RubyDung has a direct connection to Minecraft. The grass, dirt, and cobblestone textures are the same. In fact, the earliest versions of Minecraft had the RD for RubyDung in the name, as Notch was initially modifying its source code. Given this evidence, I find it very likely that RubyDung was in fact a direct precursor to Minecraft. Empty beta servers. Multiplayer has been in Minecraft since the pre-alpha versions. I have fond memories of playing on servers as a kid with my friends. I even ran one for a while. However, as time goes on and the game updates, people move on to new servers and different games. What about the beta servers? Surely many of them are either shut down with the dwindling player base or updated to new versions. But what about those that didn't? Are there old, abandoned beta servers that have no players but are still running? Liminal spaces that will forever be empty, a ghost town of a once bustling city? Honestly, this is one that's pretty hard to completely rule out. Sure, people who physically own server hardware are unlikely to miss that it's running Minecraft. However, I could see someone using their parents' credit card to sign up for a remotely hosted server before eventually forgetting about it. They never log on again, even though someone's still paying for it each month. The world sits, and sits, forever, always there but never entered. Somewhere, at some IP address, this server exists. Game Mode 4. Minecraft has several game modes, including Survival, Creative, Adventure, and Spectator. Each of these alters the game in fundamental ways, and they serve different purposes. There's a console command which allows the player to change the mode. This is accomplished by typing /game mode followed by a number, 0 for Survival, 1 for Creative, and 2 for Adventure. Spectator doesn't have a number, but it would be number 3. So where is number 4? Well, it doesn't exist. I can't find any sort of lore or discussion about what Game Mode 4 might be, so this is the best I've got. It's not real, and it's not that mysterious. Villager News Real Broadcasts. Villager News is a series of Minecraft animations by Element Animation. It shows what a newscast would be like in a Minecraft village. It's humorous with inane logic and highlights the stupidity of the villagers. I think this entry is supposed to imply that these are actual broadcasts from Minecraft villagers. I'm not sure, but it's obvious that this theory doesn't have much going for it. Wither skeletons are dead Steves. This is another one from MatPat. The idea revolves around the ancient people who built the Nether fortresses. Apparently when they were buried, the Netherrack sucked the souls out of them, creating soul sand and leaving behind the withered skeleton. Thus, the wither skeletons that guard the Nether fortresses are the remains of the people that built them. It would also explain why the chests in the fortresses have items from the overworld, such as diamond and iron. I think this one is somewhat plausible. It's certainly a convenient explanation as to why wither skeletons are at Nether fortresses, but it doesn't explain why that's the only place they spawn. Soul sand can be found throughout the Nether, which implies that wither skeletons should also exist everywhere. Still, I think this theory has some merit. Secret launcher menu. I'm not quite sure what this is referring to. There have been multiple versions of the launcher, and if you run the current version in compatibility mode for Windows 95, it brings up one of the older versions. The only other thing that it could be is an Easter egg on earlier versions that would bring up a creeper face or a shrug emoji if clicked. None of these are really a menu though, so this doesn't have much going for it. Cave ambiance happens in real life. Minecraft has all of these creepy noises that play when you descend into a cave. There are theories that compare each of them, including a particularly obtuse one that says that Steve is in a coma from a minecart crash, and the entire game is played in his head. In terms of real-life cave noises, I can't find much about it. Pawbob is a developer. Pawbob is a player on the legendary Anarchy server 2B2T, who has been around since nearly the beginning. He helped the server's admin by writing a plugin that stopped people from getting stuck on the Nether roof. Conveniently, that plugin also included a backdoor that allowed for infinite items, flying, and teleportation for Pawbob and all of his friends. They created an appropriately named base called Plugin Town. He had various other clever exploits, including developing hacking software and using Thunderbolt sound data to pinpoint chunks with active players. The theory states that Pawbob is actually the developer of Minecraft going undercover. It could potentially make sense given his deep knowledge of the game's inner workings and ability to exploit them. But he could also just be a Java developer who knows how to find vulnerabilities. The theory is possible, but I wouldn't say it's likely. Fake multiplayer. I can't find much for this one. Some mobile games are known to have fake multiplayer, but this is clearly not the case for a game as advanced as Minecraft. Super secret settings. Earlier versions of Minecraft included a super secret settings button in the options menu. When selected, it cycled through various built-in shaders. The button was removed by version 1.9. The moon is alive. The only thing I could find on this is actually the opposite, which is that the sun is dead. When Minecraft switches from day to night, the sun, moon, and stars move together, which is contrary to how it works in real life on Earth. The YouTuber Spumwack has a theory that says that the only way for this to happen is if the moon, sun, and all the stars are orbiting the Minecraft world. Supposedly a civilization in the far future detonated their old home and turned it into a star, before moving to the brown dwarf that was their dead sun. I think this just makes no sense with the context of the rest of the game, but the astronomy on Minecraft is certainly a bit strange. Hidden achievements. Minecraft does actually have a few achievements that are only visible once you get them. How Did We Get Here requires that the player have no fewer than 26 different status effects on them